Entrepreneurs tend to be visionaries. So they call the role the visionary, and they need an integrator to be able to really take it to the next level. But really that's what you need. And that's what we do, right? We're the get stuff done crew, where if a founder or entrepreneur is saying, hey, I know the path. I know I've got product market fit. I'm getting good feedback. I just need some more doers. I need people to really integrate and execute for me. They just need to admit it and acknowledge that this is how they need to gain clarity, is like, I'll stay over here while people can build. And listen, it's like you have to wear all the hats when you start, but when you finally get to that level, that's a great client for us, because then we say, perfect. You've nailed the vision. You continue to grow that way, and we'll start integrating and executing for you. So
Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mortgage Tech Talks. Today, I am joined with Tyler Cameron. Tyler is the founder, CEO, president, maybe all the above, of wrksourcing. wrksourcing evolved from what you maybe traditionally think of maybe a more VA virtual assistant agency to now a full workflow specialist organization. We talked about that, I guess, transition and really what it means to be this workflow specialist for him. Really the impact that he's making right now in a bunch of industries across Canada and entrepreneurs across Canada, but specifically in the mortgage space too, and how he's really helping a lot of our mutual clients finding really impactful ways to use tech and honestly what is a bit of a noisy environment right now. So if you find yourself in that place saying, I know I need tech, but I don't know where to start, I think this is going to be a great episode for you. We'll see you on the other side. Hey, Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you, Tom?
I'm good. Yeah, listen, I think we can get right into it here. I know this is a convo we've been wanting to have for a while, and we've had obviously a bunch offline, but the first one in front of cameras here. And I don't know, I always get into a new mode. Where I usually start when kind of the camera goes on, so to speak, is always the origin story. I don't know why, but I love learning a little bit about where people come from. I think it tells me a lot, and often I hear something, I'm like, oh, that clicks, that makes sense, right? And so maybe that's where we can start today. So I know obviously in your role right now, you're at wrksourcing, and we'll get into all that right now, but love to kind of hear how just how you stumbled into this. I don't think this is a super conventional career. I mean, I guess maybe neither is mine with Blue Mortgage here, but no one, not a lot of 5-year-olds would say, hey, I want to grow up and start my own agency, right? But maybe they do. Maybe there's 5-year-olds that they're doing that now. But just curious how you kind of stumbled into this and what was kind of maybe the long arc to get you to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, definitely. I'm always happy to share a story. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm a storyteller too. And they're all true stories, I swear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started my professional career in advertising. So I started at a big ad agency from a small town of 500 people.
Which town?
Bruce Peninsula, Lion's Head.
Yeah, okay.
Near Toby and Murray. So
yeah, I have a friend who has a cottage there up in Lion's Head, so we've been there a couple times.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So didn't think a small town kid like me would end up in downtown Toronto on Bay Street, but worked at an ad agency in the PepsiCo account. Was always a huge sports fan, so I was really fortunate to transition after 3.5 years, worked my way up there, but transitioned at the time to the Score television network. So it was a dream job for me. So I was selling, and before I was doing the media buying for TV, and then I went to the selling side. And then from there, I just worked through advertising, marketing roles, touched almost every single platform. I'd consider myself a very curious and lifelong learner. So I jumped from traditional media to digital to really ad tech heavy. Ended up back at the Score at one point. So I was there for almost a decade on 2 stints. But I think really it was, I'm your conventional entrepreneur who doesn't really, like to listen to other people at times and rebel a little bit. So I always wanted to do my own thing. So I started a side hustle, just really with the whole part of it being wanting to help people. And I started with dad sourcing. I went down the virtual assistant path, and we can talk about that. But really it was how can we free up our minds and our time to just live a healthier, happier life. And that's kind of been the journey I've been on from a couple different companies I've launched.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's funny. I'm from a small town too. I don't know if you knew that. And actually, so is Massimo, my business partner. So the same way, I'm the one guy in Toronto of my whole friend group back home, and they still think I'm crazy for being here. And anyways,
where are you from again?
I'm from a place called Erin.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm in Collingwood. I live now, so I drive through Erin. Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, maybe start for Bailey's ice cream, but
Yeah.
no, but I guess for me, maybe it's a small town thing. I don't know if it is or not, but I think in my journey to being at Blue Mortgage, I wonder if it's the same for you. Where I didn't come out of school being like, I know I want to be an entrepreneur, but maybe a little bit like you, it was like, hey, I started doing certain work and saying, hey, this is what I like and maybe don't like, and then kind of over that journey, kind of landed and said, hey, maybe this entrepreneur thing is maybe more right for me. Just curious if that was it something you stumbled into, or like, from a young age, you were like, I know I'm going to be running my own business one day. It's just finding the right mission, right? As you put it. How did it kind of work in your brain, I guess, or how did that journey kind of come about? Was it something you stumbled into or something you always knew you had in you?
I think it was always in my DNA.
Okay.
I know because I grew up in a household of small business owners. So
that makes a difference.
Yeah. Parents, and we lived inside the business. So my parents owned and operated a garden center, one of the only ones up north, for 35 plus years. They sold it a few years ago. Oh, wow. And it was the ding dong every time people came in and out, and I heard all the conversations. So I was kind of just infused into entrepreneurship. I started my first business as a wedding DJ at 17, 18 years old. It didn't seem like a business at the time. It was more just running around with some speakers, taking cash for jobs. And then from there, I knew I wanted to I just wanted to do something fun. And I kind of always marched to the beat of my own drum, which I can see in one of my children right now.
Can you?
Yeah. So I'm like, I think she might be one of them might be the entrepreneur out of them all, or out of them both. So, yeah. I felt like I was going to eventually, but I'm really glad I got corporate experience as well, because the skills I gained I still use within. I wouldn't be the entrepreneur I am today. I still use it within my business, and just super transferable, and was really fortunate to have a really good career path before I found the right timing to launch my own thing.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a good perspective, because I think a lot of people, after they've made the jump from maybe something corporate to more entrepreneurial, they kind of stick their nose up to the corporate life, right? And maybe that's justified, maybe not. But I think it's a good perspective to say, hey, there were a lot of good things about it, right? And a lot of skills learned. And, it's kind of, I think it's kind of cool. I guess, you saw your parents being entrepreneurs, and now your kids are seeing you. So I guess it's a generational thing that's being passed along here. But, I think it is. Maybe it's a bit of a blessing. I don't know. You tell me if you thought so, but did you like that? Was it a bit annoying having people always ringing your doorbell? Or I'm just curious, because I think I told you this. I just had my first daughter. She's about a year now. And so I'm thinking, oh, what kind of exposure is she going to have? Because I didn't have that childhood that you had. My dad was a bit more corporate. So I'm honestly just curious, when you had that experience, did you like it, not like it? What was it like for you?
It's all I knew. I mean, looking back on it now, like if my dad listens to this podcast, he will appreciate me admitting that we butted heads a lot.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, it was incredible that he started from like cutting grass to just launching. Like, he started with one greenhouse, and then we moved to another place. He built it, and then multiple greenhouses. It's really cool to see him at a time where it's very risky with a business, launching a business with a small family. So it was all I knew. It worked really well for me, and it's really timely because our kids are in camp right now. And my wife and I just were talking today about when we were growing up, we didn't have camp. We were just kind of left alone. And for me, my parents were on the property. Yeah. So there'd be times where I'd be alone playing Legos in my room for 4 straight hours. And then I'd poke my head back up, and they're like, we didn't even know if you were in the house still. So for me, it was great. I really loved having the time and
the independence.
The independence. You just do my own thing. So I think it really helped me, and it's helping me now too, as I look back and reflect.
Sure. Yeah. Fair enough. And I guess, maybe kind of bringing this around to now a bit more present day. And, I think a lot of people who are listening, being mortgage brokers, they're entrepreneurs, of course, in a sense. And a lot of them have made that jump of corporate. Some, I guess people listening, you can raise your hand if this is you, but I think a lot of folks would say they started more at the bank side of things. Maybe they were a teller, maybe a mobile mortgage specialist. And they kind of looked around and probably had that same itch that maybe you and I both had, and said, hey, let's make the jump, and now are, in business for self and making decisions and making income that's kind of completely dependent on themselves, which is both exciting and scary, right? It's making that leap. And so, and I think for you have a unique perspective. You can correct me if I'm wrong again, which is you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? So you're not just one yourself, but the nature of your business is you kind of really get deep into, people's day to day, and I think people's businesses. So maybe now would be a good time to maybe explain just a little bit more about, the nature of the work that you're doing right now at Worksourcing. And then, we can get into, I want to dig in a little bit about, more that entrepreneurial DNA. What makes someone entrepreneur, and what are those markers or telltale signs? But maybe we could start the first part of just kind of a little bit more of what you're doing today and how you're helping entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd mentioned dad sourcing earlier. So I transitioned out of that more just because of market forces with.
What was the difference between the two? Dad sourcing is more of
dad
VA.
Sourcing is helping dads and families live a healthier, happier life. We were donating back to men's mental health. It was a concierge service with a marketplace. So a beer company, flower company, travel company. So
more personal,
very much more personal. There was, I had a startup dad, kind of on like helping entrepreneurial dads as well, because I've always been passionate about that. But then just with the pandemic and lockdowns, we were born out of that, our company. So people weren't going on trips. They didn't need a concierge. People didn't know what was going on. So I quickly...
Yeah, it's day to day, right? People were just, crazy time.
It was crazy, and a little PTSD now thinking back. And
I know, it's still crazy that whole thing happened, right? I still look back and say we did some crazy things. But without going down that rabbit hole there, I'll let you keep going.
So I quickly pivoted to work sourcing with the same engine behind. So what I mean by that is we started as a traditional virtual assistant agency where it was helping people primarily with admin and lower level sales and marketing, building decks, just helping with marketing collateral, creative, graphic design. And over 4 years ago, I had one virtual assistant. And, I'll fast forward and bring us to today. We don't even call ourselves a VA agency anymore, and we don't call our team VAs anymore, because we started to go down the path of more specialized work. And we can talk a little bit about the great work and collaboration that we do together, but it's more specialized. We have a team of 35 people. We blend, I'm here in Canada and I have people here, advisors, leadership team here, but also a part of my leadership team is in the Philippines, and we've built a virtual culture there by design. Just amazing culture, skill sets, and great strategic people that we marry it all together. So we kind of have that blend of onshore, offshore. And we're working with entrepreneurs. It's our main target audience, anywhere from a solopreneur up to people who have even a medium-sized business of, up to 20 people. And then they start bringing people in. So we still do admin, executive assistant, really integrated roles. Marketing, we have a whole marketing journey, everywhere from a website to paid. And then sales, we have some cool, sales and AI managed outreach, and we can talk about some of the tech there. But we do everything from ongoing integrated roles to project-based work. So that's kind of where we're at today. And mortgage, we're helping mortgage brokers and lawyers and other professional services.
Yeah, no, I think it's, I think that's, a very interesting journey, and just kind of, going where the market takes you, right? You have to sometimes, especially again, without going down the COVID rabbit hole. That a lot of people were doing that, right? Of just saying, I don't even know what the next month looks like, but this week, hey, this is what I'm going to have to do. And you take it week by week. And before you know it, you look back and you say, wow, that was quite the journey. I wanted to pick up on one thing that you said. I'm just curious about. You said, we don't call ourselves a VA agency anymore. And I think that's an interesting thing. And here are my quick thoughts on that. I think it's being very, 10,000 feet looking down, you're in the day to day. So I might butcher some of these things. But I think when I work, or I guess at least talk to some mortgage brokers, the idea of a VA is not super new anymore. It's still kind of newish. It's not like everyone's been there, done that, but it's not like a fringe thing that only some people are doing. It's starting to get a little bit more mainstream. But there's also, I think, a lot of starting to be, and maybe there's been some bad apples out there, some maybe negative connotation there. So curious if that was maybe part of the reason that you're branding yourself slightly different, because I know what you do, and I know I've seen or at least heard different VAs, and I do think they're very different. So talk to me, what did I get right there? What did I get wrong? What was kind of the idea of staying away from the VA thing?
Pretty close. So I think it's twofold. I think in terms of the industry, you're right. There's during that time, COVID, everything opened up even more so. We know we're a global, able to connect with people globally through all sorts of different platforms. But really it changed the way people were building their teams. They were dropping their leases maybe because they're like, we can all work remote. And then they're just reimagining the way they were building their organization. So a lot of, I don't call them bad apples, just a lot more companies kind of came to the forefront. It's not all you need is an internet connection to be a VA. Like if there's a skill set to remote work. So there was a lot of that kind of going on, like promising the moon, right? And where a VA used to just be, hey, I'm an assistant, I'm doing, more admin type work. And now people, one of the reasons, and now shifting to kind of where we saw it and what we've repositioned as is, people were expecting like, oh, I want a VA, and that VA, they need to be a social media manager and an expert seller. Can they code too?
Right. Yeah.
We're getting into freelance territory, and we're getting into more specialized work, which we want to do to help, because we want those entrepreneurs to stay healthy, happy, and not run back to corporate. So we started to get team members and pick up really specialized, talented people. And we're bringing in people that aren't at the VA level. So we started to call them work specialists, and WRK playing off our name. And we have a whole campaign on social right now. The difference between a VA that just gets tasks done and then us lead with process and workflows and a long-term solution. We won't just chuck an executive assistant over to somebody. We need to ensure that person has processes and time to actually train them to integrate them properly. So that's really the big difference with us. We're leading with workflows and process, and we won't work with people that aren't aligned with our mission. So
yeah, I think that's right. I mean, in the most kind of I don't know what the right word, kind of brute interpretation of it, I think COVID happened and people were like, oh, this whatever assistant that I had down the street, maybe it was, I don't know, a college person who just needed a job to help out. I can go half price and I can go overseas and I can do that. But the devil's in the details, right? And what I find in working with you, I think that, people are complicated, right? They're complicated in Canada. They're complicated in the Philippines. I know that's where you're based. They're complicated everywhere, right? And people have skill sets, but they also have lives. They also have all these different things. And just to say, hey, I'm going to take Tom and find a cheaper Tom 10,000 miles away, it doesn't work like that, right? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm super unique, but let's just use not the name Tom, but hey, everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to have their own story, their own baggage, but their own skills and their own expertise. And I mean, I think that's something that we maybe realized the hard way, or maybe just in working with you and seeing the level of talent that we were have been able to work with, just kind of working with your group. It's like, wow, okay, this isn't just going to be someone who can, I don't know, type in numbers into a spreadsheet for me. This can be someone who can be, a much bigger part of my team.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I didn't even mention, so all the things you said 100%, but I didn't even mention AI and how that's changing the game. People are wondering VA and workflows. Even some people go to our site now. It's like, oh, you just use AI agents. There's different, like, we're human led. We will continue to be human led, but it's just a confusing world out there. So I think we're really happy with the way we transitioned over to a little bit more specialized, and we'll continue to go down that path. So
good. And we'll get into all the AI stuff maybe in just 1 second, but I did want to circle around. I said I would do it, so I'll make sure I'll be good on my promise, which is talk just a little bit more about that entrepreneurial DNA. I think, what drives people. And I think I'll, to ask you that, right, is like, okay, when you work with entrepreneurs today, what's kind of, I guess, what do you see as kind of common trends? I guess both in terms of, personalities and different types of things. And I think that's just a nice gut check to say, hey, I'm not alone in this entrepreneurial journey. But then also, I think, you're hearing, maybe it is VA stuff, maybe it's AI stuff. What do you think what are the big themes you're hearing in terms of what are entrepreneurs, whether it is people in the mortgage space, or I think you said lawyers, what are those common themes right now? You're saying, wow, this is a huge need right now, right? What are a lot of entrepreneurs kind of crying out for and saying, hey, I really need some help in this area?
I think it really circles around clarity. And for them, because there's so much coming at them, some people are having
like what? Like, what do you mean?
AI platforms. People are overwhelmed. It's like, wow, this can really help me. And I heard this person's automated this over here. So I think,
there's like that FOMO. It's like
it's total, right? Yeah, it's like, let someone like us keep up with a lot of this, but also block out the rest, because we're just trying to figure out what's good for you, not only today but long term. I think the big thing is, and it's probably just because we're in the process of becoming an EOS company. So we're going through the whole, for people not familiar, it's built off the book Traction. It's an entrepreneurial operating system. There's no manual for running a business, but it's pretty close to having.
Which book did you say?
It's Traction by Gino Wickman. Yeah. So it's a framework. Other people use OKRs, and we had that before.
Oh yeah, I know this one. It's like the tire, right? That's the cover. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's right.
The funniest thing is, though, so I'm actually now listening. I've read this. We're going through the process.
Would you recommend reading it?
But just to at least understand, is this for us or not? But the big thing with them is, and this is circling back to your original question, entrepreneurs tend to be visionaries. So they call it the role of the visionary, and they need an integrator to be able to really take it to the next level. So the trend we find, we work with a ton of entrepreneurs. Usually it's the founder or the CEO, and they are by definition a visionary. But what visionaries don't love to do is execute. So they have all these crazy ideas. My team is, I'll call them and just talk at them with all these crazy ideas. They're like, "That's nice, Tyler. Please go sit down. We'll figure out how to execute them." But really, that's what you need, and that's what we do, right? We're the get stuff done crew. Whereas if a founder or entrepreneur is saying, "Hey, I know the path. I know I've got product market fit. I'm getting good feedback. I just need some more doers. I need people to really integrate and execute for me." They just need to admit it and acknowledge that this is how they need to gain clarity, is like, I'll stay over here while people can build. And listen, it's like you have to wear all the hats when you start, but when you finally get to that level, that's a great client for us, because then we say, perfect, you've nailed the vision, you continue to grow that way, and we'll start integrating and executing for you. So
right. That's a little bit, I don't know if you knew this, a little bit of our story. So Massimo started Blue. I don't know if you knew. You're nodding. So I'll tell the quick story just to list. But Massimo started Blue, and he's very much so maybe more that visionary, big ideas, maybe a little bit lacking execution. And that's when I joined. I joined about 4 years into the business, and I was able to kind of bring that part in. It was easy for us because we were friends. We lived together in school a long time. We were living together at the time in Toronto. I was working at my corporate job, quote unquote. So that was an easy transition, and it was easy for him to kind of trust me. But I think that's the big part. I think a lot of, even mortgage brokers listening here would say, I have that visionary. I know I need probably someone to help me execute, but who do I hire, and how do I let go of the reins or take off that hat that I've been wearing for 5, 10, 15 years and put it on someone else and trust that they're going to do as good of a job, or admit they won't do as good of a job, and maybe that's okay. Like, how do you is that kind of part of your service, maybe coaching people through that? Like, do you see that kind of dynamic happen?
Yeah, I would say that's a big differentiator for us. And that's where a couple years ago I came up with workflow solutions. And that's that leading with process, because people come to us and go, "I'm overwhelmed. I'm being completely reactionary. I don't know to where even to start." If it's a mortgage broker that says, "Hey, I heard about Blue Mortgage. Should I, is there a different way to automate? How do I get all this stuff out? And how do I know how to prioritize?" We do a full-blown assessment, and we start to identify those gaps. But we're also really transparent where it might be, "Listen, I think you need an on the ground or in your office integrator or someone to come in and execute with you." We're not business coaches. We're just calling it like we see it, but we're also, we know what we're really good at, and we know what we don't do as well. So, it's just getting those processes going, and then we start to identify the priorities to really help them move their business.
Cool. And do you ever have to do, like, as part of your job, almost in that process flow mapping is almost like the therapist role, where it's like, you're going to let go of this part of the process and it's going to be okay. Like, is there some of that you have to deal with? I just say that because I know that's something we see all the time too, which is just people wanting to hang on and not give up right on what they built.
There's a good line, that I won't swear. I don't think this is a swearing podcast, but Dan Martell says,
"You could."
Well, Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time, says 80% done is 100% effing awesome. So even if it's 80%, or there's little tricks to help with that, you're right. Entrepreneurs by design, or they're control freaks, right? You want to control everything. So you just need to, it's like the first step is admitting that problem, but there's different tricks, right? It's like, hey, do the 10-80-10 rule. 10% you explain to somebody, 80% they do it, 10% you bring it home and you look it over. So there's different tips and tricks that we recommend. And sometimes it's like therapy for sure.
Yeah, sometimes it is. And I know I need it sometimes, but I think that, I think that helps. And I think honestly having, good resources helps too. You talk about Dan Martell, he's someone I follow a lot. He's great. He has some great stuff, just the book, if that's kind of your Bible, so to speak, the traction. I should really read it. I've seen it so many times on so many bookshelves, but I've never picked it up. So maybe this will be the straw that breaks the camel's back there. But let's get a little bit, I guess, deeper onto the tech side of things now. I mean, I think that for you, obviously, you talked about your corporate role. You use a ton of different tools. Then, you went into the dad sourcing, more personal. Now you're on more the professional side with your work specialists. Maybe let's stay away from the AI a little bit because I think we will spend a lot of time there. But maybe pre-2022, I don't know, let's use that frame of reference. Just curious kind of how you thought about all these different tools. Like, I think that's maybe part of what you were talking about with that clarity. A lot of people want to say, which tool should I be using right now? What's the right one? Because expensive to start a tool or try a tool and then get 3, 4, 5 months in, whatever it is, and then realize it's not for you. Just curious. I think you have a very unique perspective in that, given how you work with so many different people. When you see the library of potential tech solutions, how do you kind of pick off which ones are going to be in kind of your tool belt? And then how do you figure out, which tool you're going to apply with, whatever particular team? So just curious how you kind of think through, the tech side of things and how you, I guess, prioritize them.
Yeah, it's a great question. It all goes back to the foundational groundwork. What are you trying to achieve, right? If it's, I don't have a CRM, and we talk to a lot of people that are working in spreadsheets. Heck, when I went back to the Score, when I worked there for my advertising days, they were running multi-million-dollar company off of a spreadsheet. And I helped integrate Salesforce and we went down that path. But it's really just identifying where you are today and where you want to go with your tech. Death by tech is definitely something we see all the time, where there's all these subscriptions and you just want to recommend that you uncheck a bunch of these ones you're not even leveraging. So it all starts there. So when we kind of map out what people are trying to achieve and what their goals are, we're very open and honest too. We have some affiliate partnerships. So we'll say, hey, this is what we know the best. And that's why we did it. We had the benefit of going into so many people's businesses and getting familiarized and getting and building up our work specialists across Zoho, HubSpot, Jobber, JNAP for healthcare. There's legal apps. So there's just so many which is excellent because it's by industry, like you guys have gone down. So it speaks to that person and you can customize it. But what we didn't want to do is reinvent the wheel every single time. So that's why we always start with that, the foundational work of mapping it out. And then for the most part, you can kind of go through a lot of different, customization, make it their own, right? So I think the big thing is just understanding that part, but just going to somebody that knows, because you could just be sitting there spinning your wheels going, should I go with this one? Should I stick with the free version of this? And really it's just starting and getting it integrated. So you sometimes need that integrator again, and that's where we come in and help.
Yeah.
Because it's overwhelming of what's out there today.
Yeah, Tyler, I guess, to that point there, I think that, it is very important, and it goes back a little bit to the FOMO piece. Like, this is typically the kind of the sequence of events I see where it's, my friend just implemented ABC system. It can be a CRM, can be an AI tool, can be whatever. And oh my goodness, it sounds like they are having amazing results. I need that tool. And then that's when they usually come to us. So if it is Blue Mortgage, then they come to us and say, I need, Blue Mortgage. And we turn around and say, okay, why? Well, because, my colleague has it. And, we probably don't do it as much as you, but I think that's the wrong order, right? It's, again, the Blue Mortgage or whatever else, other tool, these are all, tools, right? I mean, I just kind of answered it there. And a tool is specific to a job, right? It's like saying, hey, I need a screwdriver, and then saying, well, do you have a screw to screw in, or is it a nail, or is it 1,000 screws and actually you need a drill, right? Or whatever it is, right? So I think that's the trick. I think for a lot of people is to make sure you're doing it in that right order. And what I honestly say, and I don't know if this is part of your process or you have it a little bit more, I guess, formalized, but I say to people, literally just open up a Google Doc and think about all the steps you do from the very first phone call you ever have with a client to the very last interaction you have before you close the deal, and even afterwards, right, that you're going to be staying in touch with them. And just go through it point by point by point, and then say who's going to do it, how are you going to do it, do you have a template for it, all those different things. So I say do that first, and then once you have your map, and it's an evolving map, it doesn't stay static, then you can say, okay, well then which tools are going to help me execute on each of these different ones, right? So again, it's putting it in that right order of process first, then the technology, then the tool, right?
100%. And that's where we learned and grew up as a company, because off the start, it was like matchmaking, giving someone an ongoing person, and they didn't have the systems and tools in place, and we were doing them a disservice. Entrepreneurs need protected from themselves, right? So it's like, and I'll say that on a call. It's like, I know you want to run, but we need to walk first. And I think you made a good point there. People come to us and say, I need more leads. I'm like, yeah, bet you a lot of people you need more money is what you're saying. So I think it's all just a spoke in the wheel, right? So it's like, how does it all come together holistically? And to your point, the tool of the CRM or project management or whatever it may be is just a small part of it. And how do they all work together?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, I've been kind of pushing it off for a bit now, but let's dive a little bit maybe deeper on the AI side of things. And, you know, in the pre kind of work we did, one thing you said that kind of stood out to me, and I maybe want to challenge it a little bit here, which you said, hey, right now it's, easier than ever for, entrepreneurs. And maybe I'm going to get the phrase wrong, but I think you said something like using tech or adopt tech in their business. And I think the reason I challenge it is to say, I think a lot of, I'll say mortgage brokers, people that I talk to out there are saying, well, actually, I don't know if that's true, because I feel a lot of that FOMO, right? And I don't know which tool's right. And I tried one of these tools and it kind of sucked. And I spent like way too much money on learning that it's actually not so good. And I'm kind of just using ChatGPT, but am I really using it to its full? So I think there is a lot of that, uncertainty, unclarity. So maybe, I don't know if you want to speak to, I guess, exactly what you meant. I probably misinterpreted it a bit. And, addressing that kind of concern that maybe some of these, the folks listening might be having, which is, actually, I don't know. It feels more confusing than ever to adopt technology right now.
Maybe I just meant it's never been easier for us. And a lot of that comes in with the coding. Like coding used to be like your mechanic, right? It was specialized. Now there's so much no code. But once again, you are 100% right. People are overwhelmed and confused. And I think it's just easier for us is probably the way I interpreted the question or how I answered it. But
well, it's right. I mean, to that point, really, it's like, hey, you can now type into ChatGPT, build me an app that does this, and it's like it's built, it's done, which is crazy. Yeah,
and price threshold, right? So if someone comes to us, like we were a Zoho affiliate partner, and you guys are built in Zoho, and someone comes to us and says, say it was an emergency. Once again, we make sure everything it's processed, but say they're like, I need a CRM. It's like, no problem. Zoho's got, I call it the baby CRM, the Zoho Big N. And it's like, we can get you up and running for $19 or $7 or the free trial in 3 hours, like from start to finish, templated, SOPs built. Like, I mean, that's kind of the entry point that I was referring to, because, if you look back years, and we can go through, you could do a journey of tech. And for entrepreneurs specifically, it's like you would sit there and go, okay, what do we have here? That's really expensive. That needs coding expertise. This is complicated. Now you type in specific by industry, that didn't exist, right? So now it's kind of starting to hone in. Yes, it's super confusing. And if you don't know, find somebody that can help with the clarity, right? So that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think fair enough. And it's one of those things, where I don't know, this is maybe as far back as I go, where it's like there was a time for me 10 years ago where it's like you wanted to CRM, it was kind of only Salesforce, right? I'll just use not to pick on those guys.
Still is.
Yeah, it still is. And their model, and I think this is intentional and works for them, and I'm not gonna say it's good or bad, but their model is like specifically, hey, you need to have someone like on staff who is like a Salesforce admin that's literally their full-time job is dealing with the system, which makes a lot of sense if you're I don't know, General Electric, and you just bought Salesforce and you have 1,000 people, it's an extra one.
Yeah.
But if you're that solopreneur, that mortgage broker out there who's saying, yeah, I want sales, I got to hire a whole person just to run my Salesforce.
Yeah.
Now, the costs have just exploded and it's going. So you're right in the sense where there are a lot of these smaller tools now coming. I think a lot of people recognize that and saying how to make smaller, more accessible tools. And yeah, I think it's going to be that interesting dynamic where, okay, maybe 10 years ago, the decision was actually easier because, hey, there was one thing.
Very expensive.
So I did, yeah, exactly. But it was still, my decision point was easy.
Making was cut down.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. It's like that trend's probably not going to continue. It's probably going to get more tools, not less tools, as AI lowers the barriers, maybe not just for entrepreneurs, but for software companies to build small little tools and little apps. So I think the choices will explode. But yeah, the accessibility of each of those choices, maybe on average, is going to go down, down, down over time. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I honestly don't know what your take is on that, but that kind of seems the way things are going, at least.
Is it like, it almost seems like, is it a race to the bottom for this stuff with the people? They have access to build all these tools. They're coming out. It's like, if you look at, type in a specific need case and all these tools come up, how many are going to be around, right? So I think they're going to continue to pop up. I think there's going to be a ton of acquisition. People will find really good traction early, and then they'll get scooped up maybe by big people like a Microsoft, a Google, whatever, or people start to build kind of a more cohesive kind of AI play. So yeah, it's interesting. It's fun to have our pulse on it from our perspective, and we have specialists, looking at that, but no, you don't know from day to day what's going to happen or what you're going to find.
Yeah.
So it's anybody listening, if they have FOMO, you should, and it will continue because, just keep clear on what you're looking to do, and try to block out the rest. It's not going to stop.
Yeah, no, it's not going to stop. And, I think a lot of people come to probably you and us too, just saying, what's the silver bullet here to cut through all the noise? And I don't know if there is a one silver bullet. It's not like, hey, just do this and you're good. Right? Because tomorrow that advice could be wrong. What I say to people is basically, at least right now, is you just got to stay curious.
Yes.
Right? You can't stick your head in the sand and just hope this whole thing blows over. Maybe it will. I don't think it will, but maybe it's not a winning strategy. So what are low cost things that you can do in order to kind of keep your head above the sand, right? Maybe it's trying the tools in a simple way. A really big one, and I think one of the superpowers of an industry like the mortgage brokering industry is you have a ton of peers, right? So what I've said as a piece of advice many times is, find that mastermind group, people who maybe have the same tech level, same business size as you, that you can meet with once a month and just, have a conversation like we're having right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of, kind of your success. I know you've been in the BNI group, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And does that help? Do people talk about AI in that group or not really? Or tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, it's such a great point. Yeah, I've been a part of BNI for a while. I'm part of a lot of networking. I think people get caught up, and as we talk about AI and tech, when people come to us and I need leads, I need revenue, this is what I'm doing online, and people only talk about online, right? And with AI, with social media, with every headline, you have to just be careful and try to cut through the noise because everyone's vying for attention. The more things out there, the more cluttered it gets. So having the online is fine, but what you just said, what are you doing offline? And some businesses, it depends on your business, your industry, your product, but what are you doing offline? I do a ton of networking, and peer groups, mastermind groups are incredible. And that's a great recommendation. Same size, same tech level, or someone just a bit above you to help
you a bit
up. Like, I've heard about this. And then just try it. If you're Gmail, Microsoft, G Suite or Microsoft Suite, there's AI built into it. Or hop onto a free tool, play around. Don't put your social security number in there, but play around and just see what it is, what it does. You can do it at privacy of your own home. You don't have to feel left out, right? So I would say that, and that's a really good point.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's, the first, just trying it out. Yeah. I think it's all about that. The analogy I use is kind of like that staircase, right? Where if you start at the bottom step and you're trying to get to the top step, you're going to fail every time. But what's the smallest step you can take? And maybe, you haven't climbed stairs in a while, and the analogy I'm using now, climbing stairs, is trying new tech. Maybe you haven't tried that in a while, so maybe you can only do a small little step, but find the smallest step you can take and just make that. And then you'll realize, hey, this isn't as bad as I thought, and I'm a little bit higher up, and I can see a little bit more, and let's try that next step. And
sorry for interrupting. Type AI for beginners in YouTube.
Right.
You don't even have to try anything up this earth. Just there's content out there. Once again, there's no shortage of content. Just look at people who are really helping someone at your level, and then they might have a medium level, an advanced level. So it's definitely the way to go.
And what I find is that for anybody who I've, I guess, interacted with who's taken that advice, is that it really snowballs if they do it right. They do take that first step and they go, whoa, this is kind of helpful. I mean, what else can I do? Right. And then it's
building grocery lists and plans and all this stuff in AI and robots.
Find robots. Maybe sooner than we think here. Well, anyways, Tyler, this is kind of flown by here. We're already kind of coming close to time, but I guess just to wrap up, I guess anyone who's listening, watching or listening, who says, hey, you know what, I feel like I'm maybe in that place. I think maybe I need maybe a little bit of help, building my process and or getting, the assistance I need to actually execute on that process. Where could they find a little bit more about you?
Yeah, they can find me at wrksourcing, wrksourcing.com, Tyler at wrksourcing.com. Starts with me. I love, this is the part of my visionary role. If we go back to that, I just love having conversations. It keeps me fresh too, talking to people and helping, trying to figure out any kind of problems within business. But it all starts with a free call and just no judgment. And we're here to help. And
you guys have seen it all, I'm sure, right? So
absolutely.
Awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate it again. And for everyone who's listening, thanks for joining us this week. We really appreciate it. Obviously, your viewership is why we do it. And if you did enjoy this, please, share with your friends and family or your mastermind group if you have one. We really appreciate it. That's how we grow. Word of mouth is huge for us. So we really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. Thanks again, Tyler.
Thanks for having me.